Hello there, my name is Shan, I'm from Counting What Counts, and today I am going to be talking you through using the Impact and Insight Toolkit as a CPP, or a Creative People and Place. So you will have received your login details from either myself or my colleague, and you will have been directed to this website. So you can go impactandinsight.co.uk and click on the sign in button and you will come to this page here. So you will need to log in with the email address and password combination that we have provided you with and click on sign in. No, thank you, not right now. Okay, and you will come through to this. This is your Culture Counts dashboard. And you will see that this one here is pretty empty. Okay, so we have no evaluations available. We just have a nice handy tip here in front of you. And it might be, when you log in for the first time, that you do have a couple of evaluations on the left-hand side, and that will entirely depend on how your account has been set up. It doesn't matter if you do, and it doesn't matter if you don't. Okay, so the first thing I suppose we should discuss is what an evaluation is. So an evaluation is essentially a folder, and you would have one folder per event, per exhibition, per work that you are evaluating, okay? And then within that folder, you will have multiple surveys. And those surveys will be for, different respondent groups, so maybe self-assessors or members of the public. It can also be for different time categories. So if you are going to be doing a survey before the work occurs and then afterwards. So you can have different surveys within one folder. Okay, so let's get started. So at the moment, as we've just discussed, we have no evaluations in our folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this orange New Evaluation button. Okay, now we have a handy new feature called the Templates feature. And what that means is that on this drop down here, you will have access to different templates that have been pre-populated, okay? So these template evaluations are literally that. They are evaluations that we have created. We've turned them into templates for you so that if you select it, your own evaluation will be pre-populated with these questions. So let's show you this in action. Evaluation name. So I'm going to say this is going to be a community festival, okay? So I'm going to call it Community Festival SO40, okay? Let's throw that out there. Community Festival SO40. And I am going to choose a template to base it on. So as you will have seen here, you can create one without a template. You can do it completely you can have it so it's completely blank and, you do it completely bespoke. But I would recommend that if you are going to be using the toolkit for an evaluation that will count towards your mandatory funding requirements, I would recommend that you do use the templates, because by using a template, you will ensure that everything is in there that you need in order to count towards your Arts Council funding requirements. So you'll see there are actually two here for CPPs. There's CPPs Events and Artist-Led Participatory, and there's CPPs Co-Created Participatory. Now, it's entirely down to you, your organisation, and the work that you are evaluating as to which one will be appropriate. It might be you want to check out both and see which one works for you, and you could just simply do that and click on Preview. It would open in another window. But actually today, for this, I am going to stick with this one, Events and Artist-Led Participatory, for my community festival. Create evaluation. Lovely, here we are. So you can now see on the left-hand side, we have an evaluation that's been inserted called Community Festival, SO40. And you also see that it's opened here. So this is your evaluation. As I've said before, the evaluation is like a folder, and then within that you will have your multiple surveys. So if we take a little look here, we have 3 surveys. We have the standard survey for public respondents, a prior survey for self-respondents, and a post-survey for self and peer respondents. So let's just quickly run through the differences. Standard survey for public respondents. This is a survey that is intended to be completed by people that attend your festival, okay? So it could just be, Joe Bloggs from down the road has attended the festival and they will therefore be a member of the public, okay? Prior survey for self-respondents. So a self-respondent would be somebody that has been directly involved in the curation or creation of whatever work it is you're evaluating, okay? So it's somebody that has that emotional investment in the piece. And as you can see, it's a prior survey, so it's to be completed before the work takes place. And then also we have post-survey for self and peer respondents. So the first thing I'm going to say is that as a CPP, you do not need to use the post-survey for self and peer respondents if you don't want to, okay? It is not a mandatory requirement for you to use the post-survey for self and peer respondents. It is a mandatory requirement for you to use the survey for public respondents and the prior survey for self-respondents. However, we do recommend that you do use the post-survey for self and peer respondents if it's appropriate for your event, for your work, because it can be really useful for you to be able to draw comparisons between the self prior, so that's sort of the objective setting element, and then with actually how they perceive the work once it had been performed or created or presented, whichever word is appropriate for your work, and peer responses as well. I mean, we are very encouraging of peer review in the arts and cultural sector. We'll talk a little bit more about peer review later on. But as I've said, the main thing for you to know is that the first 2, standard survey for public respondents and prior survey for self-respondents, are mandatory. The post-survey for self and peer is not. Okay, so let's have a look up here. So this little tab here, properties, is very easy to glaze over, but it is important. So with the properties tab, you can basically add tags to your evaluation. This will be really helpful over time, as you will basically be able to grow a collection of different evaluations, contribute to an aggregate data set, and you will be able to use the tags to see how the impact differs across your various events. So we'll go through this here. So I've already said this is going to be a festival. And you can also select the different types of art forms. So it's going to be combined carnival and public celebration. Let's go for that one. There might be some dance in there. Maybe social dance. That's always good fun. Okay, we'll leave it at that for now, but you can see how it works. And let's see. And it's going to be a fun day sort of style. So we'll stick that there. You can also put in your location if you like. And the attendance. Now the attendance is really useful because the system will use that number in order to calculate the margin of error later on. Now of course, if you are setting this up before the work has occurred, you won't necessarily know the attendance. But don't worry, you can always pop back later on. So I'm going to leave mine empty as well. Great, so that's all on there. Fabulous. So let's head on back to our surveys. So, as I've said, we have 3 here. Now, I'm going to actually start by showing you the standard survey for public respondents. So let's click on this. We have automatically been brought to the summary page, but we're actually going to zip back over onto the configure. So as I said earlier, the good thing about using a template is that it includes everything you need in order to satisfy the mandatory funding requirements for Arts Council. However, you might want to start customizing it a bit, making it really speak to your work, your organisation, what really matters to you as an individual CPP and the work specifically. So do make the most of this opportunity. So you can start off by writing a little introduction. You can also add a logo. Now if we scroll down, you will see the type options here. Okay, so if you have copied from the template, then the survey type will be pre-selected for you. Okay, it might be otherwise if you're doing one from scratch that you do need to select the survey type, and that's another way of saying the time category. Okay, so you've got the prior, the post, and the standard. We also have here then delivery options. So there are 3 different types of delivery that we offer. They are all requiring the internet, so whether that's 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, and they all require a device, okay, that can be connected to the internet. But there are 3 different types of delivery options, and they all have their uses. So the online one, that would be when you have a URL that you distribute to people that have attended the work. Okay, so if you can imagine, say you're a theatre and you have a box office and you can send out emails to people that have bought tickets for a particular event, then you might find the online one works really well. Interviewer is good if you are doing in-person interviews on tablet computers. And the display one is very good if you are an exhibition and you have static tablets. Now, there are a couple of key differences. The main thing is that with the online link, it is designed to only accept 1 response per device. Okay, so you wouldn't want to use that in an interview setting where you have 1 tablet, because every time that you go to take a response, it will write over the previous one. Okay, so you do need to be careful that you're using the right one. Interviewer, as it says on the tin really, that's great in an interview setting if you have a tablet computer and you are going through one and then another and then another. Display, that's very similar to interviewer in that you can collect multiple responses on the device. The only difference is that it's been designed to be completed autonomously by the respondent, whereas the interviewer one has some special little additional options that the interviewer can make use of. What I'd just quickly like to mention is that also the online link can of course also be inserted into a QR code generator. So if you were trying to do contactless methods, then you might want to generate an online URL for the survey, then pop that link into a QR code generator so that there's a handy barcode available for people to scan with their phones. Just another little thing I thought I'd mention there. Okay, so now there are these advanced options. Okay, so it might be that you want to explore these. Let's start off with the general option. So, I've got here hide results. So there are certain questions within the toolkit that are called dimensions. These are standardized statements, and these are the things that over time, we'll be adding to collectively, and you will be contributing to understanding regarding the impact of arts and culture through the use of dimensions. Now, automatically, if somebody completes a survey using dimensions, they will be presented at the end with a bar which shows where they scored the dimension in comparison to the mean average. Now, some people think that's really great because it can prompt some really interesting discussions. Why did you think that? Whereas other people thought this. Alternatively, you might feel that that could be problematic because that could cause your audience to question their own opinion on a piece of work. So it really is up to you. It's down to you, your organisation, and the work as to what is going to be appropriate. But I'm going to choose to hide the results. Also here, you can see that are able to do a redirection. So that means that when somebody completes the survey, they will be redirected to whichever website you've popped in here. So that's really handy if you are wanting to sort of, promote a next event, or you want to take them back to your own website homepage. It's a really useful feature. Survey timeout. Now this would be a case of, let's just say that somebody is at home, they're completing the survey on their computer, and the child starts crying, and that they go to the child. This survey will time out after whatever number of seconds it is that you insert, okay, so that nobody can come along and sort of skew the results. All right, so that can be very useful in some instances. And then there's response expiry. So response expiry is essentially overriding the thing I said at the very beginning about only accepting one response per device. You are able to tell the system to accept multiple responses per device after X number of days. Okay, so you would write in here 2 days. So let's say you put in the number 2. That means 2 days after the first response was taken on a device, another response can be recorded from the same device. We've got interviewer delivery. So this option here is ticked by default, and that just means that the person that is conducting the interviews, they have sort of additional rights, if you like. Okay, so they're able to skip things, they're able to move around. Gives them a little bit of sort of permission levels within the survey itself. And then we have display delivery. So this is the one for the static tablet. It's quite popular in exhibitions, museums, galleries, that sort of thing. And again, you can have a redirection link, and there's an automatic survey timeout in seconds entered there. Okay, so let's click save and continue. Okay, so whilst this is loading the design page for us, I want us to have a little think about dimension questions. So I mentioned dimension questions earlier, and dimensions are standardized statements. Dimensions have been worked on over a number of years in the UK, but also globally. They've been developed with arts and cultural organisations, funding bodies, and academics in order to create these statements that will be very useful when, over time, the same statements are responded to for all different works, and collectively we can see how different artistic or cultural experiences impact those that are experiencing them. So, because we have copied a template here, we used the template at the very beginning, that means that all of the questions contained within this survey, you can see them all here, will contribute towards your Arts Council mandatory requirements. It's incredibly useful because it means you do not have to worry about adding in the questions that Arts Council wants you to use. As long as you don't delete any, you see the little delete icon over here, as long as you don't delete any, you'll be absolutely fine. However, what I would say, if I were you, I would check out the different options available down the left-hand side for you to add in questions. Okay, so you can really start to make it your own. I said earlier when we were on the configure page about customizing it, making it really speak to your work, to your organisation's mission statement, whatever it is. Do check these out, okay? There's quite a few here. These are all question types, okay? So we've got a drop-down, multiple choice, that sort of thing. Here, experience, this is where you could have an NPS question. So if you don't know, the NPS is the question where it says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this event or whatever to a friend, family, or colleague. So you can use the NPS question from there. Now dimensions, this is the thing that I've been talking about a little bit, and I just want to click on this and just to show you some others that we have. So dimensions are in categories. Now, it might be, you see these here, it was absorbing and held my attention. It was an interesting idea. It was thought-provoking. There are some here that you might think are actually ideal for your work. I'm going to have a little look at some of the others. Let's have a little look at ACE participatory. So you can see here there are all these different participatory ones as well. So yes, there are lots and lots of options, which is very exciting. So I would really encourage you to have a little look around, see if there is anything in the additional categories that you think would be useful for you. And the thing that I'm going to choose actually on this occasion, I think will be, I had a good time. You know, this is my community festival, and I think for me, for my organisation, for the event, this is what I think is going to be important. Click Save and Close. And you will see it has been added to the bottom. Now, you can always move them around, so I actually am going to pop this up by the other dimension questions. I feel that has a better flow to it. But it's entirely up to you. Okay, so please do feel free to explore the other questions available and look at creating your own question schedule. Okay, so we are now going to click Save and Continue. Okay, so we have now come through to the invite page. Now, this is a public survey. So remember, this is the standard survey for public respondents. Therefore, I do not need to use this invite page. This invite page, as I scroll down, you will see it talks about peer assessors. More about peer assessors, and then also self-assessors. Now, I do not need to invite self or peer assessors to complete my survey for public respondents. Therefore, I'm just going to skip this page. So you can either click Save and Continue, or back up the top, you can go back onto Summary. Okay, so now we are on the Summary page, and you will see here the different links for the different situations that I discussed at the beginning. So a quick recap. Online, that's good for if you are going to be sending out an email with the link attached for people to respond to, or if you're going to turn it into a QR code, that's another place where online is great. Interview, that's good if you have tablets and you are continuously taking responses, so one after another. Display, very similar to interview. The only difference is that it is designed to be completed autonomously. Now, if I had popped in self or peer assessors, their information would be here. However, as this is my survey for public respondents, I have not. In order to distribute your surveys using the correct link for the correct situation, there is a handy copy URL button just here. Okay, or of course you can simply highlight it. Up to you, whichever works for you. And that's it. That's all on how to create your survey for public respondents. Now, I'm just going to quickly show you the self-prior survey, because that is the other one that is mandatory for you as a CPP. So in order to get back to the sort of evaluation homepage, I'm going to click here. Okay, so you see we're back in the evaluation, which is the folder. And I'm going to select this one, Prior Survey for Self-Respondents. And again, I've come through to the summary page straight away, but I'm going to hop on back to Configure. Now this is all exactly the same as with the public survey. So you can change the name of the survey, make it sound a little bit more exciting perhaps. You can add in the logo, do an introduction. Again, if you have used a template, you don't need to worry about this type options because it's already been done for you. Delivery options. Now, this is actually where I will slightly veer away from what we said with the public survey. Because actually, you don't need any delivery options to be selected in this instance. If a survey is for self or peer respondents, you do not need a standard URL. Okay, you just don't need one. So actually, I'm going to leave these blank. I'm just going to leave them. There's no need for them. Save and continue. And again, you'll see here we have come through to the design page. So in exactly the same way as with the public survey, the questions that are here have been pre-selected for you by Arts Council. However, that is not to say that you can't add to them. So once again, please do feel free to explore the dimensions, maybe add in a free text question if you like. There, multiple choice, whatever you like, do explore them. I won't do that right now, so I will just enable you to do that in your own time. Now we're on to the invite page. Okay, so when we did the public survey, I just skipped over the invite page because we didn't need it, because we weren't inviting peer or self-assessors to participate in the survey. Okay, it was only for public. This is very different. It's the prior survey for self-respondents. Therefore, I need to invite self-respondents to complete it. So I'm going to scroll down to the self-assessors box. Okay, invite self-assessors. So as I said earlier, a self-assessor is somebody that is directly involved in the curation or creation of the work that you are evaluating. So I would usually say they have a level of emotional investment in the piece. Okay, a self-assessor would be somebody. It could be anybody. It could be someone that's worked in marketing the event. It could be somebody that is actually performing in the event. Someone that, if it's a project, someone that's leading a participatory activity. Who a self-assessor can be is pretty flexible. Okay. So let's add in email addresses. So I'm going to add in here self1@cpp.com, okay? And self2@cpp.com. We always recommend that you have, at least a couple of self-assessors wherever possible, just because it gives you sort of a better overview, really, of what the self-assessors from your organisation might think. And then we're going to click Save and Continue. Now you'll notice in just a minute when we go through to the summary page that there are a couple of little differences here. So again, we have prior survey with self-respondents. If we scroll down, you will see with the survey links, they are empty. With the public one, we had the online interview and display. With the self one, we have none. And the reason for that is that we did not select any on the configure page. There are also no peer assessors inserted. And that's because we didn't add any in on the invite page. However, you will see here that each of the self-assessors that I have just added on the invite page have their own URL associated with them. Now, this is really great because the system will know if this survey has been completed, the one that's ending in 7XH, the system will know that if that has been completed, that Self1 has completed their survey. And this orange rectangle will turn green and it will say survey response completed or collected. And that's incredibly useful because it means that you, the person that's coordinating this process, you can essentially track who has and who has not completed their survey. Now, you can either send the survey through the system by clicking on Send Invitation. You see like this, you have this form, you can personalize it, and then click on Send Email. Or you can copy the URL and pop it into your own email that you write completely separately. It's entirely up to you which one you want to do, but it is important to make sure that you use the correct link for the correct person, okay? Now, you might wonder, does this not have issues with regards to anonymity? And the answer to that question is no, it doesn't. Because assuming you have multiple self-assessors, the system won't show you who said what. It won't say self 1 said XYZ, nor will it say that the URL ending in 7xh said XYZ. Okay, so you will not be able to see who said what. Of course, the difference to that statement is if you only have one self-assessor, then of course you will know exactly what they said. But usually, if you aim to have more than one self-assessor, you will not be able to work out who said what. So yes, that is the how to create a prior survey for self-respondents. I hope you can see that it's quite straightforward, really. You just go through the steps, you go configure, design, invite, and then onto the summary page to get your links. Of course, we are here to support you if you have any questions at all. So you can email us at support@countingwhatcounts.co.uk, or you can just get in touch with us directly. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.